Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for an information session. We're just going to go over Manna Project International in general and just talk a little bit more about the program director position, a summer internship, and our spring break opportunities. So I am Taylor Brown. I'm the recruitment coordinator here for Manna. And also on this call, we have 4 different program directors joining us from Nicaragua and Ecuador. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves really quickly. So we've got Susan Hyman here.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm from North Carolina. I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I just graduated in May and I got down to Nicaragua in July, and I have been here since then.
Thank you. And Frankie?
Hi, I'm Frankie. I live in Philadelphia and I graduated from the University of Delaware in 2016 with a degree in environmental studies. I am a 5-month PD, so I got here in July and I will be leaving in December.
Wonderful. And we've got Annie.
Hi, I'm Annie. I am from New Jersey, outside of New York City. I graduated from the University of Virginia this past May and came down to Ecuador in July, and I will be staying here until August. So I'll be doing our 13-month program.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, and I'm from Northern California, and I graduated in 2010 with a degree in intercultural studies, and I am here for about 11 months. We'll be finishing up my time here in August.
Awesome. Thank you. So just to jump right in a little bit more about Manna itself, our mission is to foster communities of talented young leaders to become the next generation of social change agents by engaging in on-the-ground service with their international community. So our tagline is community serving communities, because we really believe that the best environment that we can build is if we are focusing on the community that we're living in and making sure that it's a collaborative effort, both from our community of program directors and volunteers that we've got and the community that we're lucky enough to be serving in every day. A little bit of organizational history. Manna was created by a group of Vanderbilt students in 2004 that wanted to graduate and do a year of service. We're lucky enough to still have one of the original co-founders on our team. Lori still works with the organization years later, and she's created this pretty amazing organization that started so small. So the original group of 11 volunteers has grown into a pretty big alumni network of volunteers and Manna alum that have come and served on our sites in Ecuador and Nicaragua. And again, I said that our tagline before was community serving communities. We really like to reflect the fact that we're not coming in and just leaving something. We're a development organization that relies heavily on the community that we are living in order to do the programs that we do. And we're lucky to have be impacting lives, about 5,000 lives every single year. So we rely on 3 organizational pillars. We approach development in a holistic way. So we focus again on the community. Keep repeating that, but it's quite important. And we also are really intense on leadership development. So as a program director, you really get a lot of opportunity to run your own programs. You're really entirely responsible for them, which is a pretty unique model that we've got compared to some other development organizations. But it allows you to really gain experience at a pretty early stage in your career, and gives you very tangible experience into what it means to be a part of a development organization. One of the main goals of Manna is to break the cycle of poverty. So these are the numbers from 2016. We don't have the complete numbers since we're just about to embark on our last month of 2017. But in 2016, Manna Project International served almost 5,000 direct beneficiaries through the work of our program directors, our volunteers, as well as our local staff and volunteers, which is really important for us. And we've been supported by nearly 900 individual donors, and we've been able to accomplish 30 different community programs. So our areas of service, we really focus on three different areas. So health, and when we talk about our site in Nicaragua, we'll hear a little bit more about our health programs. We've got 2 clinics down there, and that site is particularly health focused. Our site in Ecuador has a lot of education focus as well. So education is a huge tenet of what we do. whether it is also health and community health education or English language education or some of our math and literacy classes, and economic empowerment as well. In order to break the cycle of poverty, people have to be empowered to be able to break free of that. And in order to do that, we are fostering programs that will help support small businesses and vocational training. So we have 3 different opportunities here at Manna Project. So the first is a short-term site visit. So we have a number of groups come down during their university's spring or fall break, either 8 to 12 people at a time in each group. And they come down and they focus on one particular project for their time on site, which varies depending on the group and their interests and also the needs on site at the time. If you're interested in anything like that, please reach out to us, and we'd love to set up a group of students to come down and visit us in March or over Thanksgiving. Our internship positions are available for 4 or 8 weeks in May through July. We have up to 10 summer interns per site, and summer interns really have an opportunity as well to delve into project management, program management a little bit more. So at the beginning, they're following some of the program directors that are running their programs, but towards the end of their internship, they're going to have the opportunity to come up with some ideas and design parts of the programs themselves, which is wonderful experience. Again, if anyone's interested in practicing their Spanish, this is a wonderful opportunity to do that as well. And our long-term positions, which we're going to hear more about from our program directors, our program director positions. We have between 10 to 12 program directors per site, and they come down for 5, 7, or 13 months typically, and they have a whole range of responsibilities and organizational roles that they're in charge of, and the program management as well. So I don't want to give too much away, but the program director position is either in Nicaragua or in Ecuador. You live with other program directors. So our program directors in Ecuador are actually calling us together this evening. You have the opportunity to develop and lead programs. So you're really in charge of the programs and at each site when you take them over from the program directors from the year before. And again, we focus on health, education, and economic empowerment programs. And you also get experience with organizational roles. So if anyone's interested in pursuing a career in nonprofits, things like grant making or even finance for anything are wonderful ways to build a professional resume. So we have an interesting alumni network of program directors. A lot of program directors come down and ultimately pursue further careers in international development or nonprofits in general. We also have a lot of program directors that return for further education. So going to law school or medical school, a lot of public health students. Again, we'll touch on our health programs when we get to site specifics on Nicaragua, and a lot of people that are interested in international policy or business later on. Graduate school is another thing that's quite common for our program directors to return to after their experiences in Nicaragua or Ecuador. So if you're still interested in potentially focusing on a career that may be distinct or different from nonprofit or development, I would still encourage you to look into the program director position. So now we're going to jump into the site specifics. So we have our program directors in Ecuador that are going to give you a little bit better understanding of what life is like on site there and some of the programs in which they're working. So we'll just jump right in and have them tell you a little bit more about the Ecuador community.
Hi, so for starters, just the area that we work in is the Los Chios Valley. Our center, our community library is located in Rimiloma neighborhood outside of Quito, and we work in different neighborhoods, Pardo, Chapitana, Singoqui, just different areas of the community with our partner organizations, and we'll go into those a little bit more later.
Yeah, so getting into a little bit more about the communities we serve, like Taylor mentioned, our mission is communities serving communities. So we always are assessing the need of the community we're serving and how our programs is suited with that need. So looking a little bit at Valle de los Chios, it's about 45 minutes outside of Quito, but is home to a lot of wealth disparity, given how Ecuador is developed and Quito is a bit more developed, and then outside in the valley is a little bit more underdeveloped, and they still lack a lot of basic resources like proper education, healthcare, things of that nature. So some of our statistics about Valle de los Chios are on the left side of the screen. So about 40% of the community we serve lives on less than $2 a day. And then as we get further out into more rural areas, we see that number at more around $1 a day. And a big problem here is also with underemployment. It's rare to find someone who has a full-time 9-to-5 job here, but more so they sort of have different odds and ends jobs, and really struggle to find consistent and steady employment, with that underemployment number at over half of the population we're serving. And then looking at the education system here in Ecuador, the public school system lacks a lot of resources. So we see that that in some of the statistics about Valle de los Chios, with over half of girls not attending secondary school, about a quarter of children dropping out before finishing primary school, and the type of schooling they're getting certainly isn't always the strongest. And then lastly, on the health end, unfortunately, there's some over half of women have experienced gender violence here, given that definitely machismo culture is definitely prominent here, and that also has led to a relatively high statistic regarding teen pregnancy as well, with 16.5% of births are to teen mothers. So really looking at that full picture, we see some problems with the education system, health systems, livelihood opportunities, and that's how we respond with our programs that Frankie is going to talk about now.
Yeah, so like Annie said, our programs are designed to respond to these needs of our community. Adult cooking and children's cooking and nutrition are pretty self-explanatory. The program directors come prepared. We have a kitchen at our community center, and the program directors come prepared with recipes and ingredients so that we can teach the community how to eat healthy and how to cook. We have adult English and children's English classes, which are probably some of our most popular programs and bring a lot of people into the community center. A lot of people like the fact that they're pretty affordable, and that we are native English speakers, which is pretty helpful with children who need to learn English in school and adults who need to learn English for different jobs around the area. So we have 5 levels of adult classes that are taught on Saturdays so that adults are able to come when they're not at work. And in addition, we also have a class that teaches teachers how to teach English. And then children's English, we have 4 levels that are taught on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. So kids come straight from school to those programs. Education Global Access Program, which is, we call that EGAP, and the Small Business Development Program have kind of merged together. We tried out the Small Business Development Program and realized that that didn't really fit our community the way that we wanted it to. So we are now merging that together and basically turning it into a professional development course/workshop for different people that can get tips and tricks on how to build your resume and how to get internships and basically good professional development skills. We have an exercise and wellness class that is also being modified a little bit now. Currently it's a diabetes club because diabetes is very prominent in our community. So we're kind of trying to open that up to, you know, people without diabetes and people that just want to live a healthy lifestyle. And then library and community center and teen center are basically where the kids come and different people that are either waiting for classes or waiting to pick their kids up from classes. We have a really big selection of books, English books, Spanish books, kids books. We just got a brand new Harry Potter series, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, the teen center is basically there for kids to have different arts and crafts and different activities to keep them busy with. We have computers, video games, ping pong table, a foosball table, a little basketball net. So just things to get kids into our center and hanging out with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now we're going to go a little bit further north and talk about Nicaragua. So Susan's going to walk us through the program, the community, and the programs on our site in Nicaragua.
Sure. So the two communities we serve are first the community of Cedro Galan and Chigalisagua, and that is kind of where we live too. We live right next to those two communities. That's where we run the majority of our community programs. We have a community center called El Ferrito, and that's where we hold our English classes and our community clinic, women's exercise, those kinds of things. Villa Guadalupe is a little further away. That is right next to La Chureca. So basically, Villa Guadalupe is a resettlement community that people live in who once lived in La Chureca, which was a really large open-air trash dump. I believe it was actually the largest in Central America. So the people that lived there now live in Villa Guadalupe. There we also run a community clinic, and we participate in Lacrosse the Nations, our partner organization. We run practices there as well. We also are just beginning a program called 1,000 Days, which is focuses on the first 1,000 days of life of newborns, and that also takes place in Villa Guadalupe. So a couple of other programs that we run are 5 levels of English that takes place in Ferrito. So we have the first level, levels 1 and 2 are beginner. They're taught entirely in Spanish. Level 3 is intermediate. That's kind of the first half is taught in Spanish and the second half is taught in English. And levels 4 and 5 are taught entirely in English. And it is really incredible to see how people excel throughout the levels. That there are really some people who can translate now, which is incredible. It's been really awesome to see how fast people are able to learn and what a difference those classes make. We also work in the public schools, teaching public school English and also adolescent health education. So that is really important here because they would not have the resources otherwise to learn about really important topics like pregnancy, STDs, self-esteem, like living a healthy lifestyle. So we do teach those classes in the public schools as well. The Cedro Galan Health Clinic is in El Ferrito. We have that 3 days a week, and people can come and pay for a really cheap price an appointment with our doctors and nurses, and they also receive medication with that as well. Community Health Promotion is a program that we have developed. It was actually begun with an old PD who came back and implemented this new program where we trained health promoters in the community, and now they are giving classes to people in the community about diabetes prevention and hypertension prevention. So that's really awesome to see kind of how a sustainable program works, because now it's kind of self-sufficient now, which is awesome. English vocational training, that is a program that is going to start again in the spring, and that is for people who are in levels 4 and 5 of our regular English classes, and it really focuses on getting them ready to apply for jobs in call centers or as translators and that sort of thing. It's a little bit more of an in-depth class, like there's an application process and that sort of thing. So the students in that class are really devoted to what they're doing. Lacrosse the Nations, like I mentioned before, they are a partner organization that we work with. So lacrosse basically was unknown to the country of Nicaragua before Lacrosse the Nations began in 2008, I believe it was. And it really uses the sport to kind of bring all of the kids together on a level playing field and teach them life lessons through sport and that sort of thing. And it's been awesome to see how they've improved for a sport that this country really was not familiar with at all, and now they're incredible, and it really has it teaches them about like sportsmanship, responsibility, respect, patience, that sort of thing. So they're a really great partner organization that we work with. The Youth Medical Career Education, that is our generation program. That is basically a class that informs high school students about careers in the medical profession that they may not otherwise be familiar with. So that is really focused on high school students and encouraging them to look into medical careers and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of a very brief overview of some of the programs that we do here in Nicaragua.
Thanks, Susan. And fun fact actually about Lacrosse the Nations, the executive director of Lacrosse the Nations is a former Manna Project program director. So switching gears a little bit, and we're going to jump into the fundraising part of the presentation, fundraising obligations of a program director. So we are actually, in comparison to some other development organizations or volunteer organizations, have very low fundraising obligations for our volunteers. As you can see here, these are the 5, 7, and the 13-month positions and the amount of money you have to raise as a program director each month just to pay for your costs. So these amounts just cover the cost of room and board and food and transportation, actually, when you're on site. So we'll get to that, I guess, in the next slide a little bit, but that's something to consider as well. So as I said before, this amount that you are fundraising covers the program transportation. So it depends on the site. So in Ecuador, they take public transportation typically. So all of this goes towards public transportation, but a budget for public transportation. In Nicaragua, there is a microbus that is responsible for taking program directors to programs. Program training, travel insurance, and your visa for both of those countries as well require visas for long-term stays, as well as orientation and housing and meals. This is the kind of the biggest, the crutch of what you're really you're fundraising for. So as we mentioned earlier, program directors live together on site in homes. And in Ecuador, I think you guys can help explain this a little bit more, but in Ecuador, I believe program directors, 2 of them cook each evening. Is that correct for the rest of the program directors that are there? And in Nicaragua, it's a little bit of the same, but program directors eat together each evening, discuss some of the programs that went on during the day, anything that's come up with the community in a way to really engage with their fellow program directors and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So really what you're fundraising for is your basic needs that you have when you're on site. So in order to do that, we're going to have Annie tell us a little bit more about her experience fundraising, because she does, I think, a good job of explaining the different mechanisms and avenues for program directors to fundraise. The biggest ones, we also have scholarships and grants available, which I believe Annie is going to touch on. So I'm just going to turn it over to her.
Yes. And here in Ecuador, just confirming what you said on the last slide, we do have 2 people cook each night a week, which is really fun to try everyone's different recipes and like all come together at the end of a day. So that is how we do our cooking down here. But getting back to scholarships and fundraising opportunities, it can definitely be intimidating when you first like commit to being a program director and you have this lump sum to fundraise, but I always recommend taking different strategies and doing a little bit of everything to really expand your network. And it's amazing how many people really do want to support you on something like this, on something that you're passionate about, and something that a nonprofit that's really doing great work on the ground. So I always think tapping into a bunch of different networks is really the way to be most successful. So for me, I applied to a grant through that Manna Project had recommended to me called the All People Be Happy grant. So I got about a third of my funding from that grant. It was an application about the work Manna does, why I'm passionate about the work, and a little bit about myself. Took some time, but wasn't anything overly exhausting. And then I also created a crowdfunding site, Razoo. Razoo is a great site because it's directed specifically for nonprofits. The money goes right to Manna Project, so there aren't any processing fees associated with it, and they don't take a cut out of the money you fundraised. So I had that crowdfunding site that I shared on my Facebook page. Some of my family members had also shared. So that really reached a lot of, friends that I have from college who are now graduated with jobs, old family friends who see that. And then in addition to that, I also did an email campaign reaching out to family friends, and I also went to my church for a donation as well. So thinking about those bigger organizations that you're a part of, a church group or another community group that you're a part of can also be a great resource. So that's sort of how I divided and conquered my fundraising commitment for Ecuador.
Thank you so much, Annie. That's really helpful. We're going to talk a little bit about the PD timeline. So it depends on what program directorship, I guess, you have decided to apply for. Basically, I think the most important takeaways from this particular slide are just understanding that the fundraising commitment is not due at the time that you decide to become a program director or even when you arrive on site. We're understanding of the fact that the majority of our program directors come to us after they have just finished their undergrad. And so you need a little bit of time to make sure that you can come up with the fundraising commitment. And as a part of that too, I think it's actually easier to do so when you're actually on site and can communicate with some of the donors interested in supporting the work that you're doing. Annie was talking earlier about tapping into Razoo, but it's nice to be able to keep your donors updated and post on Facebook after something's come up in Ecuador. So you can put a picture of yourself while you're there and then ask for your donor support while on site. But after the actual application process, we will get back to you within 2 weeks of a phone interview, whether or not you've been accepted to the program. And after that, you've got 3 weeks to decide whether or not you're going to confirm your spot and with a $500 deposit. And then after that, you've got quite a bit of time before you are before you have to commit to paying forward some of the fundraising commitment. And ultimately, you can see the contract end dates there, and the total amount that you've raised needs to be fulfilled about 2 months before each of those contract end dates. So the application process is pretty simple. You can go to our website. You can see the link there. You can type it right out. But you just fill in an online application. It's a little bit different than the typical send in your resume and your cover letter. We really want to hear about the programs that are of interest to you, specifically that are already designed on our site. So our program, you'll see our application. It's pretty straightforward, but we just want to hear a little bit more about what is interesting you about Manna Project and also the programs in which we engage. We also ask for the information for 2 references. Again, not your typical reference letter. We'll contact your references and ask them just a few pointed questions. It's pretty simple, but again, we're just trying to get to the heart of who you are in a way that's unique to this process and the program director position. Additionally, we'll ask you to send in your resume and transcript, which is pretty straightforward. And then we will contact you to set up a phone interview just a few weeks after the deadline of the application. So our next deadline is actually December 1st. So we're hoping that some people have been thinking about life after college and are interested in applying for that particular position. We also will have deadlines available throughout the year, but it's better to apply early because we only extend deadlines later in the event that we haven't found all the program directors that we are looking for at that point. So again, notification of acceptance occurs after within the first 2 weeks of phone interviews, the end of their phone interviews. And if you are accepted, you'll have 3 weeks to be able to confirm your spot. So like I said earlier, our upcoming deadline is December 1st. And this page is a little bit about our accountability. So if you'd like to read a little bit more about Manna Project's impact, you can read the impact report. We're a platinum rated GuideStar charity. You can see our endorsements, but please feel free to read up on annual reports. Anything financial that you're interested in, all of this is available on our website. So now I'm going to turn it over to the program director. So if you've got any questions, please just type them in. There is a little chat box in there. So feel free to ask any questions and our program directors are going to answer anything that you might have.
So it looks like the first question is, what level of Spanish did you have when we got down to site? So I actually did have a little bit of a background in Spanish. It was my minor in college. So I had a pretty good base for grammatical concepts and things like that, but I really had never used Spanish in practice before I got here. When the second week we were here, we went to a Spanish school in Matagapa, which is a town about 2 hours north of Managua. So that was a really cool experience that Manna provided for us. We stayed in homestays the whole week, and we had about 4 hours of class every morning. And then we did really cool activities in the afternoon, like a cooking class and a hike and things like that. So that was a really great start. And then honestly, just throughout the community, you use Spanish all the time, every single day. And it really does improve rapidly when you use it so frequently. So although I did have somewhat of a base of Spanish before coming here, it was way easier than learning in the States would be. So it's not 100% necessary to be fluent or anything like that. It does help to have a base of Spanish, but you definitely will learn a lot while you're here as well.
So it looks like the second question that was asked was, what does a typical day look like as a program director for Manna? And my favorite part of Manna is the fact that this really isn't a typical 9-to-5 desk job. Basically, every day looks pretty different. In the mornings, we do work with a bunch of partner organizations. So some of those include a local high school that we go to help teach English classes and come prepared with English activities. And we also help with Proyecto Escolares, which are basically extracurriculars. And just sitting there with the kids, make some connections, and tell them about the community center and the programs that we offer, and help them out with their extracurriculars. We also work with ESPE, which is a local college in the area. We do English activities there as well. We work with a local women's shelter, which is probably my favorite program. And we go there and just hang out with them, teach them English, and do some either professional development or teamwork or parenthood activities as well. So that's what we do in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we have our community center and teen center open. So once a week, you'll be scheduled to be on library, and that on that shift, you'll be answering questions that any community members have, or you'll be hanging out with the kids, or you'll be on teen center, and then you'll really be interacting with the kids. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, again, we have our English classes, and on Saturdays, we have our adult English classes. So that's a typical day. And then after either library or English classes, you come home and you either make dinner or you have dinner made for you, which is super great.
It looks like the next question is, how does Manna differ from other international volunteer experiences? And I think Taylor touched on this earlier as far as like the level of responsibility and freedom you have to plan and organize the different programs that you're involved. At least here in Ecuador, we are responsible for planning, all of these different classes that Frankie mentioned, also the nutrition classes and things that we do with our partner organizations. A lot of that is up to you to design and like plan as and develop as you see fit. And then also you get a bit of choice depending on the needs of the programs. So you, if you have like certain ideas of things that you would like to lead and manage and work on, you can do different types of work here, as well as some organizational support roles, including recruitment and grants and different things as well that really just help Manna and organizations to run if you're interested in nonprofit management.
The question is, can you spend a lot of time in the clinics? So here in Nicaragua, like I said, our main community clinic is in Cedro Galan. We host it in Farito. That's 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for 3 hours each day. So basically what we do is patient intake. So we take their vitals, get their files ready, that kind of thing. The doctor sees them, and then we input their information back into the computer. We also call patients for appointments and that kind of thing. We have a chronic patient program. So they have appointments and that sort of thing. So that is kind of what you mostly will be doing in clinic, is getting that experience. We also have our Via Guadalupe clinic. At the moment, only our clinic lead goes to that, and he shadows the doctors and does some data analysis and input. But we do actually have, or we're planning on opening that up to more than just one PD next semester. So there will be some more opportunities to work in the clinics in Villa Guadalupe as well, along with continuing the opportunities that we have in our Seicho Galan clinic.
Okay, our next question that we had come in was what is the most difficult part of being a program director? I think for me, here in Ecuador, the most difficult part is learning to share responsibilities and live and work with all of your fellow program directors. But having that be difficult has also helped me to learn a lot about myself and how I work with people and take on responsibility, and a lot about the people I work with. And we really share a unique bond from this experience, because you're not only responsible for managing your house, managing your finances, managing all of your food, but then you're also responsible for all of the programs that you're developing together. So you share a lot of responsibility with these people, but it's a really unique experience because you all grow so much together. But it definitely is a unique working experience, but something unlike any other job, that really an experience that I will certainly value in my career.
And the next question is, what is the most rewarding part of being a PD? So just kind of going off of what Annie said, this is like something I would say is personally rewarding for me, is getting to have a lot of contact and interaction with the community. I think our host homes were, for me, like a huge part of what was beneficial and like rewarding, developing those relationships, and just getting to see some of our community members here in Ecuador just always kind of stepping up to kind of help and go above and beyond to support our work as well. So we've had events where our host families or community members have participated or helped out in different ways, and that's just really great to not just be offering something to the community, but also seeing how much the community brings to the table as far as supporting what we're doing here.
Next question is, can you explain more about the cultural differences in Ecuador and Nicaragua? I guess I can go ahead and start and speak about Nicaragua, of course. So Nicaragua is actually the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So that being said, the standard of living is very, very different for the most part than what you would experience in the United States. So that, yeah, life is definitely very different here than it is there. I guess that being said, people are so incredibly willing to give and to give to you, and they're so glad and grateful for everything that we do here. I really have experienced nothing but positive response from the people that we serve. So that has been like really awesome to see. And it really does kind of show the impact that you're making. Like, for example, our clinic, even if it's just something as simple as providing like ibuprofen for a headache, that's something that they wouldn't have otherwise, which really puts a lot into perspective. And the people here are so grateful and so incredible. So yeah, that's been a really awesome experience.
Yeah, and here in Ecuador, I think we've experienced some similar things that Susan has experienced in Nicaragua with regards to really having a welcoming community. Certainly, it's different than communities in the United States, but nonetheless very welcoming and warm community. And they really value family here, and you really feel that when you join your host family for the first few weeks that you're here, and then continue to stay with them, and you see how they really value their family relationships here. Aside from that, some of the cultural differences between here and the US, time and timeliness is definitely one of them. We're on Equa time here, which is usually about like 30 minutes after when things would normally start in the United States. But I think that just comes back to really that they value relationships. So if they're having a conversation with someone and they realize that the meeting is running over, they're not going to cut the meeting off because they want to hear what you have to say, and they want to make sure that they answer all of your questions. So because of that, things usually start a little bit later than starting on time, because of these conversations and this relationship building that they really value. Another thing with regards to the food is they really focus on having large lunches or almuerzos. So here we'll have, if we go out for lunch, you have a juice, a soup, a plato fuerte, which is like your main dish, and then a dessert after that. So almuerzos are a big also social activity to get lunch with friends or with family in the middle of your day to kind of split up your work day. And then lastly, just the clothing here, the dress is different than you would have in the States. We wouldn't really wear shorts or dresses here as women, and then for our male PDs, they wouldn't really wear shorts either. It's more of a pants. You more so wear pants or long skirts. But other than that, I mean, those are just small cultural differences that here in Ecuador, but we really have loved the community we serve here.
So the next question is, what do you do as a program director outside of your programs? And I promise that you can stay busy at all times if that's something that you want. So we have different organization roles and house roles outside of our, typical English classes and partner programs. So one of those is grant searching. It's really important for a nonprofit, and specifically for a small nonprofit, to find grants to help fund our different programs and improve what we're doing. So pretty much anybody that wants to be involved in grant searching can do that and help out with our finances. And as well as on top of that, if you do find a grant that is worth applying to, some of us have had the opportunity to help write that grant, which looks really good on a resume and it's just a great experience to have. So grant searching, grant writing, recruitment is basically trying to recruit new PDs and different opportunities for expanding our organization again, as well as program directors are in charge of finances. So we have one program director, that's Annie, sitting right here, who is in charge of the finances for Ecuador. And then we also have a social chair. We try to have a community event every month, once a month at least, just to get the community into our center again. And then our house roles include house manager, just kind of keeping up with house maintenance. If the washing machine breaks or the dryer breaks or there are giant spiders in the house, the house manager is usually
which happens relatively frequently.
Yeah. House manager usually is in charge of figuring that out or contacting somebody to figure it out, as well as our grocery PDs who go grocery shopping for us once a week, and then different roles like keeping the house clean and cooking. On top of this, we do a lot of stuff for fun. Traveling is really fun in Ecuador. There are a lot of different areas that you can see. You can go to the coast, which has a lot of really fun beaches. You can go to the Amazon rainforest, which we just got back from a few weeks ago. There are a lot of really cool mountains to hike: Pasachoa, Ilalo, Cotopaxi. So there's always something to do. We do have 2 days off in Ecuador. That is Sunday and Monday. I'm pretty sure in Nica it's Saturday and Sunday. And so you can take those days to travel. And every once in a while, there's a holiday weekend where you can get an extra day and go somewhere really far away.
Yeah, so another question that we've received is, what is your favorite program So speaking from our programs in Ecuador, I would say my favorite program that I'm involved in is our B2 English Certificate program. So that's our program that Frankie mentioned briefly earlier, where we actually teach teachers how to teach English and how to receive an English certificate. So here in Ecuador, it's required by the government that all public school teachers have an English certificate given by Cambridge to teach English. But a lot of the teachers here don't have it and can't afford to pay to take the test to receive the certificate. So Manna received a grant about a year ago to give a course, a prep course for this exam, where we help these teachers twice a week. I teach them for 2-hour classes. And it's taught as a prep course. So we work on speaking activities, listening activities, writing activities, and grammar activities. And then at the end of the course, we've done different practice tests throughout the course. And those whose scores have improved enough, Manna will actually pay for them to take this exam to receive their certificate. So this is a really cool program because it's both education and livelihood. It hits on 2 of our pillars. We're able to help these teachers be better teachers, which improves the education system in Ecuador because they then teach stronger English to their students. But in addition to that, we're helping these teachers build their career because with their certificate, they're much more qualified teachers and much more attractive and competitive in the job market here. So that's a really cool program for me because our reach is bigger than just the kids we teach English to in our community center, but now we can impact the English curriculum in the public school systems in our area as well.
So looks like our next question is, do you have room to take leadership, share ideas, and make improvements? And this is another thing that I do love about Manna, is that as a program director, you're basically on the ground helping make this nonprofit run. So in Ecuador, we have Tuesday morning meeting once a week, and in Nico, we have Monday morning meeting once a week, where we talk about the past week and any updates that we had or problems or improvements that we've made, and we talk about what the next week is bringing to us. So hold on one second. So yeah, Tuesday morning meeting is a great way to just gather all of your thoughts together, and if you want to bring up any new ideas, you're able to do that and discuss it as a big group. And then I also think that our country director, Carolyn, does a great job of encouraging you to take leadership. And if you do see room for improvement, or you do see, room for maybe a new program that you think would work out, you can talk to her and have meaningful discussions and possibly put that into place. So I think that there definitely is room to take as much leadership as you would want to do.
So if anybody, I'm not seeing any other questions come up here. I think those were some fantastic questions. So thank you all for those of you who submitted it. And thank you so much to the PDs for their thoughtful responses. Just like to, I guess, wrap up here a little bit. So here's some helpful links. Again, you can just find all of these on our website. I would encourage all of you to check it out. There's some great pictures, great videos, great information there. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to me, or if you have any questions for any of the PDs that joined us tonight, please just feel free to write an email to us at recruitment@mannaproject.org. And otherwise, I hope to see some of your applications next week. So thank you all for joining us this evening, and happy Thanksgiving.